Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am finally here to update my project Level Up, which is a project that I created a couple of years ago. I wanted a way to use my eyeshadow palettes more as a whole, but also still hitting pan. So I made this project, which I have absolutely been loving, and I'm sure that most of you guys know what the rules are already, but briefly just covering them. You roll in a palette, and for each level you have to use every single shade in the palette and hit pans, and the amount of times that you have to use the shade and how many pans you have to hit is determined by what level you're on. So currently I'm on level 4, which means that I have to use every single shadow in the palette 4 times and I have to hit 4 pans. Currently though, I'm working on one of my Pat McGrath palettes, and this is quite a hefty palette, quite a difficult palette to hit pan on. I've never hit pan on any of my Pat McGrath palettes, and they are notoriously hard to pan on. So because of that, I did put in a caveat when I introduced this palette that I could put in a usage goal instead of a hit pan goal, just for like this difficult palette. Normally I stick with pans, but in order to kind of keep this in the project, I did decide to put in a usage goal. And originally my usage goal was 30. However, I had a couple of people who said that maybe I should go do 20 uses because that's what I do in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I thought about it a lot, and then I asked in my last update whether I should switch it, and a lot of you guys said switch it, some of you guys said stick with whatever feels right. And if my life was normal and I wore makeup every single day, I probably would have stuck with 30 uses. However, because I am not wearing makeup every day and I am home most of the time now, I decided to switch it to 20 uses. So currently for this palette I do have a goal of again using every single shade 4 times. That's still the same, but I'm using 4 of the shades 20 times or pan. If I pan before that, which is a very unlikely thing with a Pat McGrath palette, I can rule it out at that point. But with all of that being said, that is kind of the brief introduction to this project and my current palette. I'm going to jump into the video, but before I do so, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So I've already disclosed that I'm working on a Pat McGrath palette, but if you are new to this project of mine, I'm currently working on a Bronze Selection palette, which looks like this at the introduction when I first introduced it, and it's been in now for 2 updates. So I had used this palette before, but not like that much. It is a really pretty palette though. It is more of a kind of neutral, smoky type of palette, and it of course has the 4 special shades, which are my favorites in the palette, at the very end. At the last update, this is what the palette looked like. I had not hit any pans nor the usage goal, or as in the 20 usage goal on any of the shades, but I had hit the usage goal on a couple of them when it comes to the 4 uses. So you can see a little bit of progress, but I don't know how much you could see a difference. I have worked on this palette since the last update. It has been a while now, and this is what the palette looks like now. So hopefully you can see some differences. I will of course talk you through each shade in order and let you know how many times I have used each shade, which shades I am focusing on, and all of that kind of good stuff. So I will have the pictures up here, of course, with the difference, but this is the overview of the palette again, just so you can see it. And I will talk you through each shade and let you know how many uses I have on it in total and how many times I used it this past month, or it's been more than a month since the last update. But starting off with the first shade in the palette, which is the inner corner shade in the palette. Pat McGrath always have an inner corner shade at this first kind of spot, at least it's an inner corner highlight for me at my skin tone. But this is the shade Skin Show Divine Glow, which I had used 4 times at the first update, and since then I have used this one 13 additional times. So this is actually one of the shades that I have decided to be one of my focus shades, and I'm currently sitting at 17 uses for this one. So I have 3 uses more to go to hit that 20 use goal, and I was really close to do that for this update, but as you can see, which you're going to see more when I go through the palette too, I have not hit my goal on this palette yet. So I decided not to push it. I know I will definitely do that very early on, maybe in the next week even. So that is the first shade. Moving on to the next shade, which is the first matte in the palette. This is the shade Entrapment, which I had used 4 times in the first update, and I have not used it since. This is a shade that would be really easy for me to incorporate if I wasn't panning so many mattes in my palette. I am panning my Soft Glam palette, which has a lot of mattes. They are a lot of like deeper mattes too at the moment. So I'm focusing on them whenever I need a matte and not this specific palette. So 4 uses on this one, but I have hit my usage goal, of course, for the shade. Then we have another shimmer. This is more of a standard type of shimmer. It's not the special shades yet, but this is the shade Bronze Blaze. And for this shade, I have used it twice in the first update, and I have used it 2 additional times this past like update or month, I guess, or yeah, however long it's been, for a total of 4 uses. So I have hit my usage goal on this one, which is very exciting. But yeah, that is that shade. Then moving on to my favorite shade in this whole palette, which is the first special shade, and that is the shade Rose Gold 005. And this is a really beautiful, super sparkly kind of rose gold bronzy type of shade. You can see it right there, and hopefully you can see that there is a dip in the shade, and I have used this one quite a lot. So I reached for it 6 times in the first month, and I would let you know at the last update that this was going to be one of my focus shades. And in the past month I have reached for this one 7 additional times, so I'm currently sitting at 13 uses. So I, you know, still have a bit of a ways to go. I have hit like, you know, 6 and then 7 uses, and I have 7 additional uses, so I'm gonna have to use it as much as I have been moving forward too in order to hit my goal on it. But I don't think that's gonna be an issue. I love this shade. I kind of savor it for times when I'm gonna go out and see like people and that kind of stuff, for date nights, you know, those kind of things, because I do love it so much. But I could easily wear this one every single day, so I don't think it's gonna be any issues finishing off the 20 uses for that shadow. Then lastly, on the first row, we have the shade VR Fire Opal, which is a really stunning shade. I'm actually wearing this one today. I'm wearing a lot of shimmers on my eyes, but on the very center of my lid I'm wearing this one very like lightly dabbed. I do have a different shimmer on like my inner part of my lid though, but I wanted like a bit more of a fine sparkle on the very lid, because this one is a sparkly shadow, but it's a very kind of micro sparkle, not very kind of big chunks or big like big particles basically. So with today, I have actually used this one for the 4th time. I reached for it 2 times the first update, and then 2 additional times this past update, so a total of 4 again. So I have hit my usage goal for this shade. Then moving on to the second row, the first shade in the second row is the shade Extreme Aubergine, which is, as the name suggests, like an aubergine kind of shade. It's like this kind of plummy shade, and I reached for this one 3 times the first update, so I had 1 more use to go to hit my 4 usage goal, and I have reached for it 1 more time this past update, so I have completed this one too, another take, which is amazing. However, the next shade, which is the shade Guilty Pleasure, it is the most cool tone shade in the palette. It is this one right here. It would probably be an easy shade for me to reach for on like the lower lash line, stuff like that, but I have not reached for this one at all since the last update. I have completely forgotten about it, and since I am not done, you know, with the usage for this palette anyway for like the hit pan goal, I am not rushing with this shade. But I have not reached for it at all, and I only reached for it once in the first update, so sitting at 1 out of 4 uses. This is definitely not a focus shade for me, so I'm gonna be happy with those 4 uses. So I need to reach for 3 additional times by the next update, or whenever I roll this palette out. So that is that shade. Then we have the last matte in the palette, which is a really deep brown shade. And as I explained earlier, I do have a lot of brown mattes in my Panda palette and the Soft Glam palette, so I have not reached for this one at all. I reached for it 4 times the first month, so I'd already ticked off that usage goal, and that's kind of why I've left it. So no more additional uses on this shade, and this shade, by the way, is called Disobedient. Then we have the last 2 special shades right down here. The first one is the red shade in the palette, which is called Blitz Flame, and I had reached for this one 3 times the first month, so I had 1 more use to go, and I have reached for it 1 more time, so I'm sitting at 4 uses, so that is another shade completed. Then we have the last shade in the palette, which is called Astral Lunar Gold, and this one is my most used shade in the palette, and I'm actually happy to say that I have reached my 20 use goal on this one, so there is quite a dip in this shade now. I don't think I'm close, nowhere near close to pan. I don't know how deep these are though, because yeah, I never hit pan on any of these shades, but there is a decent dip. But these kind of special shades, kind of old school special shades from Pat McGrath, are very dry but still kind of flaky formula. It's a very interesting formula. If you haven't tried it, I recommend going to swatch these in store if you have them, because there's such an interesting formula to feel. But they are very, very dry, which means that they're not very malleable, so they don't move super quickly. So normally I think after 20 uses I would have way more of a dip than I do in this shade. and especially because I have reached for this one a lot even before this project. So you know, I for any other shade I probably would have hit pan on this one by now, because I think at least I must have at least, if not more than like 30 uses, but 30 to 40 uses I would guess on this shade. I haven't tracked this one since its lifetime in my collection, but definitely have at least 30 if not 40 uses on the shade. And in most other shimmer formats I would have hit pan, but again, Patmograph is very difficult. But that means that I have one of my 4 kind of pan / 20 uses goal hits, which is amazing. And if you looked at the palette, I'm gonna take down a picture so I can hold it up here now. If you look at the palette I have and like the usage that I have, you can kind of tell some of the shades that I'm focusing on. Of course, this one I have already hit my goal on. I mentioned that Rose Gold 005 would be one of my focuses, and that one is sitting at 13 uses for. And then we have this shade right here as well, which is another one of my focuses, which I have 17 uses on, so I'm very close on that one too. However, for the rest of the palette, I am sitting at 4 uses on everything else, apart from, again, this little slacker down here, which I will complete at some point. So that means that I haven't decided what I'm going to use for my 4th focus shade, and that is kind of where I'm sitting. I'm very indecisive. I think if I didn't have, well, I'm going to talk about it first. I was thinking about going for this shade here. It's a beautiful shade. Again, I'm wearing it today. It can be packed on or kind of sheared out like a sparkle I have today, which is very, very stunning. And I probably would have gone for that one, but I do have a very similar type of shade to this in my Panda palette in my BYOP. It is the shade Starburst from the Pastel Roses. It's very, very similar in tone to the shade, and I don't want to take away from that shadow. But maybe I can layer them, maybe I can use them in the same look. I haven't quite decided yet. I might play around with that one to get some more use of this shade and decide if I want focusing on it or not. It might mean that I use that other shade more actually, which might help my Panda palette, but I haven't again decided. Otherwise, the other contenders that I have is, the one I'm leaning towards the most is this shade here. It's not a very exciting shimmer, but I can use this one as a base and layer other shades on top of it. And I think that would be quite useful, especially because I'm trying to use as many of my indie beautiful shadows this year as I can in my singles collection. Both for, again, my BYOP, I have quite a few of them in there. And then also in my year usage product pan, I'm trying to reach for all my singles 25 times this year. Which of course I'm not going to complete this year, but for this year's 25 uses as a goal at least, which means that if I roll this one in, I might be able to layer some of those shades on top of it. This one is already so sparkly on its own that I feel like layering it with something else might just be a bit overkill, but you know, I could put this one on a space as well and then put like a really sheer sparkle with something else with like larger particles on top of it. But I haven't decided. Again, if I didn't have my soft glam palette, it would have easily been one of these 2 browns because I could have used them like every single day in a look. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting it right now. I could, I guess, go in for like something like this as a liner and just put that on every single day as a liner. But again, that would take away from my Pan palette, which would be annoying because I have a very similar shade in there called Cypress Umber, which I barely use. So if I was going to start doing that, I probably would reach for that shade instead because I'm trying to finish it. So that's why I haven't picked a 4th shade yet, because I'm so stuck with this palette. It's definitely not going to be this red. It is a fun shade, and I am panning a matte red in my Pan Those Eyeshadows actually, so that would pair nicely with that. But I like it in certain looks, but I don't love this shade at all. I just feel like it's very deep. It doesn't look that deep when you look at it in here, but the base of it is quite deep. And it doesn't have like that really nice refined sparkle to it. It is a very vibrant red shade. It's probably the most true red shimmer that I have in my collection. But again, not going to be a focus. And then again, for these mattes, don't think I'm going to do it because again, it would take away from my palette. And then this shade, as you could tell, is clearly not a favorite. So it comes down to either this one called Bronze Blaze or VR, what's it called again? VR Fire Opal, is that what it's called? Let me check. Yes, it's VR Fire Opal. So one of those 2 shades are going to be my next focus shade. We're just going to have to see. I'm going to probably have to decide very soon because if I want to have this palette out, I need to start focusing on them soon. Yeah, because again, I have 4 uses on both of those and I would need 16 more uses, so it would take me a long time. I might try to reach for whichever one I go for as like a nail polish at least once. That would give me 5 uses. to kind of speed up before I can roll in a new palette, because I've had this palette in this project for a long time, and yes, I've had a lot of life events come up which has slowed me down, but this is the longest I've ever worked on a palette, I believe, in my project level up, so I'm keen to roll this one out soon. But that is going to be it for my update today. I'm just going to let you know next time which one I decided to go with, and I have decided that I'm 100% going to have this one out by the next update. If I roll it out early, I will pre-film and roll in the new palette, but since I still have 16 more uses to go on one of the shades, it's probably still going to take a lot of time before I can roll this one in. Again, especially since I don't wear makeup every single day right now. So that again is going to be it. Let me know which of the two shades that you think I should focus on, if you think I should go for this shade or this shade. Yeah, let me know. And otherwise, I hope you guys are having an amazing day. If you are doing this project, let me know how you're doing. And if you're posting on YouTube, I most likely have seen your updates. I search for new videos pretty frequently and add them into the collaboratory playlist, which by the way I also have linked down below. But if you post on Instagram or just do it in your own time, let me know how you're doing and how far have you gotten this year. Which level are you on currently? Have you gone to level 5 and started over, or you know, have you continued past level 5? Let me know. But again, hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.